John Kennedy, from Womanizer to US President. Born on May 29, 1917, John Fitzgerald Jack Kennedy went from living only in the moment to becoming the second youngest US president ever elected at the age of 43. In today's video, we'll be looking at the life of John Kennedy to use his life story to inspire young people who may be discouraged about life. We hope this video gives you the courage you need to believe in yourself and pursue your biggest dreams. If you're new here, consider subscribing so that you won't miss other interesting videos like this. Early life. What person of substance in Massachusetts would not know of the wealth of Kennedy family or the bespectacled entrepreneur Joseph Patrick Kennedy Sr., or his wife, the Boston debutante and strict Catholic Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy? Even though the social circles of Kennedy's parents were indeed wide, they did not let them overlap with raising their family. A friend of the family once noted, most fathers in those days simply weren't that interested in what their children did. But Joe Kennedy knew what his kids were up to all the time. One could say that Kennedy grew in a household where his father instilled in him and his siblings a winning attitude, expected of the great Kennedy. School years. In 1927, Kennedy's family moved to New York, but frequent illnesses affected young Kennedy's education. By 1931, he settled for co-ed, a boarding school in Connecticut. But he was not alone. His elder brother, Joseph Joe Kennedy Jr., attended the same school. Joe Jr. soon became a co-ed star student and athlete. Day after day, Kennedy lived in his brother's shadow. To compensate, Kennedy lived the life of a rebel child, chasing girls and pranking mates. Most notable of his pranks was exploding a toilet seat with a powerful firecracker. As for classes, Kennedy flunked his grades. Though he found English and history more interesting than Latin, he rarely applied himself fully in class. Those rare moments when he did completely stunned his teachers. At Harvard University, Kennedy's father knew his son well, and despite his reprimands, Kennedy continued his lackadaisical attitude towards school, even when he transferred to Harvard University in 1936. There, he only applied himself in classes where he needed to. If not, he enjoyed sport as a decent athlete. His looks, charm, and the way with the girls earned him a reputation as quite the womanizer. One could call Kennedy a practical kind of man, only finding use in something if it can be used in practice. In academics, he was often regarded as an average or below average student. Outside academics, he was smart and resourceful when the situation demanded it, so much that even his colleagues were caught off guard. Appeasement in Munich, a Harvard thesis. In 1939, Kennedy's father received a political appointment, visiting Great Britain as US ambassador. It was also this period Kennedy realized he needed to get serious with his graduation around the corner. While touring with his father across Great Britain and Europe, he made plans for his senior honors thesis. But where to begin? Having received inspiration from his trip, Kennedy dedicated himself to his studies. This gave him a clear picture of what interested him: political philosophy. Given the background of the Kennedy family, it was almost expected. As the World War II gathered speed, Kennedy finished his thesis, which he titled The Appeasement of Munich. He detailed how the Munich Agreement of 1938 lowered the guard of Great Britain, and they should have prepared beyond the mere act of appeasing Nazi Germany. Kennedy's thesis became a bestseller, published under the title of Why England Slept, which sold more than 40,000 copies. By 1940, Kennedy graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Government, with his forte being international relations, a vital skill set in years to come. US Navy. During the height of World War II, Kennedy joined the US Navy. A year later, in 1942, he passed his training at the Naval Reserve Officer School in Chicago and the Motor Torpedo Boat Squadron Training Center in Rhode Island. He was promoted to Lieutenant Junior grade. In April 1943, Kennedy was assigned command of the Motor Torpedo Squadron 2 and a patrol torpedo PT boat, the PT-101. Their objectives: patrolling the South Pacific. On one August night, a Japanese warship rammed into Kennedy's PT-101, slicing it in half. The collision killed 2 of his crew members and injured Kennedy's back. Still as the leader, he marshaled his 9 surviving men to swim for a nearby plum pudding island as he hauled a badly wounded sailor by his life jacket strap. 6 days later, Kennedy and his squadron were rescued. Kennedy's act of leadership and heroism earned him a Navy and Marine Corps Medal and a Purple Heart. Joe Jr. was a Navy pilot, but his career was short-lived when his bomb-laden plane exploded prematurely while flying across the English Channel. His death sent John Kennedy and his family into shock. Great expectations had been placed on Joe Jr. to become the future US president. Within grief and despair, Kennedy found hope. He picked the dropped torch his late big brother carried and vowed that he'll fulfill his dreams and aspiration if it was the last thing he did in his life. By 1945, Kennedy was discharged from the Navy. His love life. In early 1952, Kennedy met and fell in love with the daughter of a socially prominent stockbroker, 23-year-old Jacqueline Bouvier. At the time, Jackie had been working for a Washington newspaper and she was fascinated by power and publicity. Some of her friends had tried unsuccessfully to introduce her to Kennedy on several occasions, until fate brought them together at a small dinner party. By the next year, they were married, and during their 10-year marriage, the couple hardly expressed their affection in public, but it was obvious that Kennedy was proud of his stylish and beautiful wife. The US Presidency. In 1960, Kennedy contested as a Democratic candidate for the US presidency. Again, he faced a Republican opponent, Richard Nixon. The outcome of the presidential elections majorly resulted from a series of televised national debates, where Kennedy defeated a more experienced Nixon, not just in debate, but also appearance-wise. In direct contrast to Nixon's pale and stiff appearance, Kennedy appeared healthy and relaxed. By November 8, 1960, Kennedy clinched it by a narrow margin to become the 35th President of the United States of America. He delivered his inaugural address on January 20, 1961. Seeking to rouse patriotism from all Americans, he delivered that legendary line of, "Ask not what your country can do for you." He said, "Ask what you can do for your country." Brief accomplishments. Amongst his many accomplishments in office, his greatest 4 were his creation of the Peace Corps in 1961, rising to the challenge of the space race to put the first American man on the moon, sending the proposed Civil Rights Bill, and signing the Limited Nuclear Test Ban Treaty in 1963. If Kennedy had not reached a compromise with the Soviet Union about the matter of nuclear weapons and the Cuban Missile Crisis, the world would have erupted into a nuclear war, a far more deadly fate than the Cold War. Assassination. On November 22, 1963, President Kennedy was in Dallas, Texas for a political trip to make peace between the conservative and liberal fractions of the Democratic Party. He, his wife, and Texas Governor John Connally rode on the presidential motorcade heading downtown Dallas, waving to the cheering crowds along the way, until 2 gunshots sliced the air. Kennedy was hit twice. He died shortly after he was rushed to Parkland Memorial Hospital. Thank you very much for watching our videos. We'd like to give you another interesting video for you to enjoy next. But before then, our team will be very happy if you can like this video and share it with your friends on social media. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss other interesting videos like this. Look at your screen now to see 2 other videos we handpicked for you to enjoy next. We love you.